My husband looked me straight in the eye this morning and told me his secretary was pregnant, with his child. He actually expected me to smile, nod, and accept my place as the convenient wife while he built his real family with someone else. What Grant didn't know was that my name was on our $1 million apartment lease, and I'd already filed divorce papers before he even finished his coffee. He thought he was dealing with a broken woman who had nowhere else to go, but he was about to learn the difference between a wife who stays quiet and a woman who's done pretending. By the time I was finished, the man who thought he could have everything would be the one begging for a place to sleep. If you're watching this story unfold, hit that subscribe button and tell me where you're watching from, because what happened next will shock you. The coffee maker gurgled to life at exactly 6:30, the same time it had for the past 3 years. I stood in our kitchen, watching steam rise from Grant's favorite mug, the navy blue one with Executive of the Year printed in gold letters. My reflection caught in the stainless steel refrigerator, and I smoothed down my silk robe, the emerald green one Grant bought me for Christmas. Everything looked perfect. Everything always looked perfect in our apartment. Grant walked in wearing his charcoal suit, the one that made his shoulders look broader. He didn't look at me. Instead, he stared at his phone, thumbs moving fast across the screen. His jaw was tight, like he was angry about something. "Good morning," I said, pouring his coffee. 2 sugars, no cream, the way he liked it. He grunted. Not even a real word. I set the mug on the marble counter and started cracking eggs for his omelet. The shells felt fragile in my hands, just like everything else lately. Grant used to kiss my cheek every morning, used to ask about my plans for the day. Now he barely noticed I existed. "The Hendersons are having that charity thing tonight," I said, whisking the eggs. "Remember, you said we'd go. Can't make it." His voice was flat. "Work stuff." I stopped whisking. "But you promised." "Things change, Ivy." The way he said my name made me feel small, like I was bothering him just by breathing. I poured the eggs into the pan, watching them sizzle. The sound filled the silence between us. Grant kept typing on his phone, his face lit up by the blue glow. Whatever was on that screen was more interesting than his wife making him breakfast. "Who are you texting?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. His fingers paused. "Work. At 6:30 in the morning?" "Business doesn't stop because you want to play house, Ivy." The words hit me like a slap. I focused on folding his omelet, keeping my hands steady even though my heart was racing. Grant had been saying things like that more often lately. Mean things. Things that made me feel like I was stupid for caring about our life together. I slid the omelet onto his plate and added 2 pieces of wheat toast, cut diagonally, just the way his mother taught me he liked it. Eleanor Holloway had very specific ideas about how things should be done, especially when it came to taking care of her son. Grant finally looked up from his phone. His blue eyes swept over me like I was furniture he was thinking about replacing. "We need to talk," he said. My stomach dropped. "About what?" "Sit down." I didn't want to sit down. I wanted to keep moving, keep busy, keep pretending everything was normal. But Grant was already walking to the living room, leaving his breakfast untouched on the counter. I followed him, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. He sat in his leather chair, the expensive one from his father's office. I perched on the edge of the white sofa, suddenly aware of how bright the morning light was streaming through our floor-to-ceiling windows. Grant clasped his hands together. "There's been a complication." A complication. Like when the elevator in our building stopped working, or when his favorite restaurant ran out of the wine he liked. Something annoying, but fixable. "What kind of complication?" My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from far away. "Lila is pregnant." The words hung in the air between us. Lila, his secretary, the young blonde woman with the bright smile who always called me Mrs. Holloway in that sweet voice. The one who brought Grant his coffee just the way he liked it when I wasn't there. I stared at Grant's face, waiting for him to explain how this was a complication for him, waiting for him to tell me it wasn't what I thought. "It's mine," he said. My breath caught in my throat. The room felt like it was tilting, but I gripped the sofa cushion and kept myself upright. "How long?" I asked. "Does it matter?" Yes, it mattered. It mattered if he'd been lying to me for weeks or months. It mattered if he'd been kissing me goodnight while thinking about her. It mattered if every time he worked late, he was really with her. "Since October," he said when I didn't answer. "October, 3 months ago, while I was planning our 4th wedding anniversary dinner, while I was picking out the perfect gift, a vintage watch I'd saved up for with the money I made selling my grandmother's jewelry." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Grant leaned forward. "Because we need to figure out how to handle the situation. Handle the situation. Not apologize. Not beg for forgiveness. Handle it. Like it was a problem with the quarterly reports or a difficult client. She's keeping it," he continued. "The baby. And I'm going to support them, obviously. Obviously. Of course he would support them. His child. His real family." "What does that mean for us?" I asked. Grant ran his hand through his dark hair. "Look, Ivy, you have to understand. This isn't something I planned. But Lila. She gets my world. She understands the pressure I'm under, the expectations. She gets my world." The words echoed in my head. What about my world? What about the life we'd built together? "She's from the right background," Grant said. "Her father owns 3 dealerships in Connecticut. She went to Wellesley. She knows how these things work." The right background. Translation, she's white. She belongs in spaces where I'm still the only black face in every photo. She won't embarrass him at company dinners or charity events. She won't make his mother purse her lips and suggest he could do better. I thought about all the times I'd smiled and nodded when Eleanor made her little comments. "Oh, Ivy, you're so articulate. It's wonderful that Grant is so open-minded. I'm sure your people appreciate having someone like you represent them well." "Your people." Like I was an ambassador from a foreign country instead of her son's wife. "So what happens now?" I asked. Grant's shoulders relaxed. He thought I was taking this well. He thought I was being reasonable. "Nothing has to change between us," he said. "I'll set Lila up in a place downtown, somewhere nice. You'll still be my wife. We'll still have our life here. Our life here. In the apartment where I spent my days cleaning and cooking and pretending to be happy. In the world where I was tolerated but never truly accepted. In the marriage where I was convenient but not chosen." "I know this is hard," Grant said. "But you're stronger than you think. You'll adapt. I'll adapt. Like I had adapted to everything else. Like I had adapted to his mother's coldness and his friend's polite distance. Like I had adapted to being the only black woman at every event, standing beside him with a smile while people whispered about what an interesting choice I was." Something inside me shifted, a door closing, a wall going up. I smiled. Grant blinked, clearly confused. "Ivy?" "I understand," I said. "You do?" "Yes." I stood up, smoothing my robe. "I need to think about this." Grant nodded. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Time. Like this was a business proposal I was considering. Like he was asking me to choose a vacation destination or a new paint color for the bedroom. "I should get ready for work," he said, checking his Rolex. "We can talk more tonight." He kissed my forehead before leaving the room. A quick, absent peck, the kind you give a child or a pet. Then he was gone, gathering his briefcase and wallet, humming under his breath like he didn't have a care in the world. I listened to the front door close, listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway, listened to the elevator ding as it carried him away from me. Then I walked to the kitchen and stared at his untouched breakfast. The eggs were cold now, rubbery and unappetizing. I dumped the whole plate into the garbage disposal and watched it disappear. My hands were shaking. I gripped the edge of the counter and closed my eyes. 4 years of marriage. 4 years of trying to be the wife he wanted. 4 years of changing myself, piece by piece, until I wasn't sure who I was anymore. The apartment felt enormous and empty around me. 43rd floor, corner unit, views of the city in every direction. Grant's name on the lease, but mine too. A fact I'd forgotten until right now. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcia, my best friend. Lunch today? I have drama to share. Drama. Marcia had no idea what real drama looked like. I typed back, "Can't today. Rain check?" But then I stopped and deleted the message. Instead, I wrote, "Actually, yes. I need to talk. 1 o'clock?" Marcia responded immediately, "Everything okay?" I stared at her question for a long time. Was everything okay? Nothing was okay. Everything was falling apart. My husband was having a baby with another woman, and he expected me to smile and accept it. But I typed, "I'll explain later." After I sent the message, I walked to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My brown skin looked ashy in the harsh light. My natural hair was pulled back in a silk scarf. I looked tired. I looked sad. I looked like a woman whose husband had just told her she wasn't enough. But there was something else in my reflection. Something I hadn't seen in a long time. A spark of anger. A flicker of the woman I used to be before I got so worried about being the perfect wife. I thought about Grant sitting in his office right now, probably texting Lila. Probably telling her how well I took the news. How reasonable I was being. How easy this was all going to be. I smiled at my reflection. The same smile I'd given him. Grant had no idea what he'd just started. The water was already running for my shower when I remembered his breakfast plate, sitting empty in the sink. For the first time in 4 years, Grant Holloway had left the apartment hungry, and I was just getting started. The shower water ran cold before I got out. I stood there letting the icy spray hit my skin, feeling more awake than I had in months, maybe years. I wrapped myself in a towel and sat on the edge of our king-sized bed. Grant's side was still rumpled from sleep. His pillow still smelled like his expensive cologne. Everything in this room screamed his name, his taste, his choices. But my name was on the lease too. I called Marcia while I got dressed, putting her on speaker as I pulled on jeans and a sweater. "Girl, you sound weird," she said before I could say hello. "What's going on?" Marcia had been my friend since nursing school. Back when I thought I'd spend my life taking care of sick people instead of a selfish husband. She was the only person who knew the real me. The me from before Grant. "Grant's secretary is pregnant," I said. Silence. Then, "Come again?" "You heard me." "With his baby?" "With his baby." Marcia let out a string of words that would make a sailor blush. "That sorry piece of... Ivy, I'm coming over." "No, don't. I'm meeting you for lunch, remember?" "Lunch?" "Baby, forget lunch. You need to key his car. You need to put sugar in his gas tank. You need to... I need to think." "Think about what?" "He cheated on you. He got another woman pregnant. What's to think about?" I pulled on my boots. The black ones Grant said made me look too casual for his events. "It's complicated." "No, it's not. He's trash. Expensive trash, but still trash." Marcia didn't understand. She'd never been married to someone like Grant. She'd never had to navigate his world, where everything was about image and status and keeping up appearances. She'd never felt the pressure of being the only black woman in a room full of people who smiled at your face and whispered behind your back. "I have to go," I said. "I'll see you at 1. "Ivy." I hung up and stared at my phone. Marcia meant well, but she thought everything was simple. Black and white, right and wrong. My marriage had never been that simple. I grabbed my purse and headed for the elevator. The doorman, Carlos, nodded at me as I passed through the lobby. "Morning, Mrs. Holloway. Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Yes," I said. "It really is." Outside, the October air was crisp and clean. I walked 5 blocks before I realized where I was going, the law office of Daniel Reed. I'd seen his ad on a bus stop bench once, "Divorce done right." At the time, I'd thought it was tacky. Now it seemed like a sign. The office was on the 3rd floor of an old building, squeezed between a dry cleaner and a sandwich shop. Nothing fancy. Nothing like the gleaming tower where Grant worked. The receptionist was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gray roots showing through her brown hair. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "No, but I was hoping someone could see me today. It's urgent." She looked at her computer screen. "Mr. Reed has a cancellation at 2:30. Would that work?" 2:30, right after lunch with Marcia. Perfect timing. "Yes," I said. "Thank you. Name for the appointment?" I hesitated for just a second. "Ivy Holloway." "And what's this regarding?" "Divorce." The word felt strange coming out of my mouth, foreign, like I was speaking a language I'd never learned. I left the building and walked to the coffee shop where I was meeting Marcia. She was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups in front of her. She looked up when I walked in, and her face went soft. "Oh, honey," she said, standing up to hug me. I let her hold me for a moment, breathing in her familiar scent of vanilla lotion and hospital soap. Marcia had been working the night shift for 10 years, but she still came to have lunch with me whenever I needed her. "Tell me everything," she said when we sat down. So I did. I told her about Grant's cold announcement, about Lila being pregnant, about him saying she got his world in a way I never could, about him expecting me to just accept it all with a smile. Marcia's face got darker with every word. "And you smiled at him?" she asked when I finished. I couldn't help it. "Baby, that man just told you he's having a baby with his secretary, and you smiled." It wasn't that kind of smile. Marcia studied my face. She'd seen me through everything. Bad relationships before Grant, my mother's death, the miscarriage I'd had 2 years ago that Grant never wanted to talk about. "Oh," she said slowly. "It was that kind of smile." "What kind?" "The kind you get when you're about to do something that's going to surprise everybody." I sipped my coffee. It was bitter, nothing like the expensive stuff Grant preferred. "I have an appointment with a lawyer at 2:30, I said. Marcia nearly choked on her drink. "A lawyer?" "A divorce lawyer. Ivy." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "Are you sure? I mean, I know what he did was wrong, but maybe..." "Maybe what?" "Maybe you should think about this. You've been with Grant for 4 years. You don't work. You don't have your own money. Where are you going to go?" There it was. The question everyone would ask. The question Grant was counting on. Where would I go? What would I do? How would I survive without him? "I'll figure it out," I said. "But his family has money, connections. They could make things difficult for you." And I thought about Eleanor Holloway and her tight smile. Her suggestions that I might be happier with someone from my own background. Her comments about how unusual it was that Grant chose me. "They already make things difficult for me," I said. Marcia squeezed my hand. "I'm just worried about you. Starting over is hard, especially when you're going up against people like the Holloways." "I'm not going up against anybody," I said. "I'm just leaving." It's not that simple when there's money involved. But it was that simple. Grant thought he could have everything. His wife at home, playing the part he'd written for her. His pregnant secretary downtown, giving him the family he really wanted. his perfect life with no consequences. He was wrong. I should go, I said, checking the time on my phone. My appointment's in 20 minutes. Marcia walked with me to the lawyer's building. At the entrance, she hugged me again. Call me tonight, she said. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. I know. And Ivy, if you're really doing this, good for you. That man doesn't deserve you. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor and checked in with the same receptionist from earlier. 5 minutes later, Daniel Reed came out to meet me. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He led me to his office, which was small but tidy. Diplomas on the wall, family photos on his desk. So, he said, settling into his chair, you're interested in filing for divorce. My husband got his secretary pregnant, I said. He told me this morning. He expects me to accept it. Daniel nodded, making notes on a yellow pad. How long have you been married? 4 years. Any children together? No. The word came out harder than I meant it to. Assets? He has money. His family has money. We live in a corner apartment on the Upper East Side. His name is on the lease, but so is mine. Daniel looked up. Both names are on the lease? Yes. Is that important? It could be. Do you work? I used to. I was a hospital administrator before we got married. But Grant wanted me to stay home. Any joint accounts? His checking account, his credit cards. Everything is in his name, but I'm authorized to use them. Daniel kept writing. Mrs. Holloway, I have to ask. Are you sure you want to do this? Divorce is expensive and emotionally draining. Sometimes couples can work through infidelity with counseling. I thought about Grant's face when he told me about Lila. No guilt, no shame, just irritation that he had to deal with a complication. I'm sure, I said. All right then. Let's talk about what you want. What did I want? I wanted my husband to love me the way he loved her. I wanted his family to accept me. I wanted to go back to this morning before he said those words. But I couldn't have any of that. I want out, I said. Clean and simple. What about spousal support? I don't want his money. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Holloway, you gave up your career for this marriage. You're entitled to support while you get back on your feet. I don't want to owe him anything. You wouldn't owe him. He would owe you. I shook my head. I just want to walk away. Daniel studied me for a long moment. There's something else you should know. If both your names are on the apartment lease, you have the right to live there. You could ask him to leave instead of leaving yourself. The idea hadn't occurred to me. Grant moving out? Grant having to find somewhere else to go? Could I really do that? If you're both on the lease, you both have equal rights to the property. You could even start eviction proceedings if he refuses to leave voluntarily. Eviction proceedings. Grant Holloway, CEO and golden boy, being evicted from his own apartment. How long would that take? I asked. Depends on the circumstances. But given what you've told me, probably not long. I thought about Grant coming home tonight, expecting to find dinner waiting, and his wife ready to adapt to his new arrangement. I thought about him planning his life with Lila while expecting me to stay quietly in the background. Let's file the papers, I said. Daniel smiled. I can have everything ready by 4 o'clock. Today? Today. New York doesn't require a waiting period if both parties agree to the divorce, though I doubt your husband will agree. He doesn't have to agree. He just has to accept it. I signed papers for an hour, my signature on document after document, making it official, making it real. When I left Daniel's office, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying something heavy for years and finally set it down. The sun was setting as I walked home, painting the sky orange and pink. People rushed past me, heading home from work, talking on their phones, living their lives. I was about to start living mine again, too. The doorman nodded as I entered the building. "Evening, Mrs. Holloway. Mr. Holloway's not back yet." "That's fine," I said. "I'll be waiting." I rode the elevator to the 43rd floor and let myself into the apartment. It looked the same as when I'd left that morning, but everything felt different. The expensive furniture, the artwork Grant's mother had chosen, the view of the city. None of it belonged to me, but I belonged here just as much as he did. I walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Grant's favorite wine was chilled and waiting. I pulled it out and set it on the counter next to 2 glasses. Then I sat down to wait. Grant came home at 8:30, loosening his tie as he walked through the door. He found me in the living room, sitting calmly with my hands folded in my lap. "How was your day?" he asked, like nothing had changed. "Productive," I said. "We need to talk." "Of course." He poured himself a scotch from the bar cart. "I know this morning was a lot to process." It was. But I think, with time, you'll see that this arrangement could work for everyone. Arrangement. That's what our marriage was to him now. An arrangement. "I've been thinking," I said. Grant nodded, taking a sip of his drink. "And I filed for divorce today." He froze, the glass halfway to his lips. "You what?" "I filed for divorce. The papers should be served tomorrow." Grant set down his glass and stared at me. "Ivy, you can't be serious." "I am. But we talked about this. I explained the situation." "Yes, you did. You explained that you're having a baby with another woman. That she understands your world better than I do. That she's from the right background." Grant's face flushed. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did." He ran his hand through his hair, the same gesture I'd found attractive when we first met. Now it just looked desperate. "Look, I know you're upset, but divorce? Come on, Ivy. Be practical." "I am being practical." "You have no job, no money of your own. Where are you going to go?" There it was again. The question everyone kept asking. The question he was counting on to keep me trapped. "I'll figure it out," I said. Grant laughed, actually laughed. "You'll figure it out?" "Ivy, this is the real world. You can't just walk away from a marriage because your feelings are hurt." "My feelings are hurt." Like he'd forgotten my birthday instead of destroying our marriage. "You're right," I said. "I can't just walk away." Relief crossed his face. "Good. I knew you'd come to your senses." "Which is why I'm not walking away. You are." "What?" "My name is on the lease too, Grant. This apartment belongs to me as much as it belongs to you." His relief turned to confusion. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm staying. You're leaving." Grant stared at me like I'd started speaking a foreign language. "You can't kick me out of my own apartment." "Our apartment. And yes, I can." "This is ridiculous. You're being emotional." Emotional. The word men like Grant used when women like me stopped accepting unacceptable behavior. "Maybe," I said. "But I'm still staying." Grant set down his glass and walked toward me. For a moment, I thought he might try to intimidate me. Use his size, his anger, his assumption that I would back down. Instead, he knelt beside my chair. "Ivy," he said softly, "please, don't do this. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." "No," I said, "we can't." "Why not?" I looked at his face, his blue eyes, desperate now, his mouth, twisted with panic. This was the man I'd loved for 4 years, the man I'd changed myself for, the man who'd just told me I wasn't good enough for his world. "Because you don't love me," I said. Grant opened his mouth to argue, but I held up my hand. "You love the idea of me. You love having a wife who doesn't ask for much, who makes you look open-minded, who takes care of you without complaining, but you don't love me. That's not true. If you loved me, you wouldn't have slept with Lila. That was different. If you loved me, you would have told me about the baby and begged for forgiveness. I am begging for forgiveness. No, you're begging for convenience. You want me to stay so you can have everything. Your wife and your girlfriend and your baby. Your perfect life with no consequences. Grant stood up, his face hard again. Fine. You want to throw away 4 years? Go ahead. But don't expect me to make this easy for you. I don't expect anything from you anymore, I said. That's the point. He grabbed his jacket from the closet and headed for the door. I'll be back tomorrow for my things. That's fine. He stopped at the door. You know, my mother was right about you. What did she say? That you'd never really fit in. That eventually you'd show your true colors. I smiled, the same smile I'd given him that morning. She was right. I don't fit in your world, and I never wanted to. Grant slammed the door behind him. I sat in the silence of the apartment, listening to my own breathing. Outside, the city sparkled in the darkness. Cars honked. People lived their lives. The world kept turning. And for the first time in 4 years, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Alone, but not lonely. Free. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset, but because I kept waiting for Grant to come back. To bang on the door. To demand his key. To make threats. But he didn't come back. I made coffee at sunrise and sat by the living room windows, watching the city wake up. People walked their dogs. Joggers ran past. Life went on like my world hadn't completely changed in 24 hours. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcia. How did it go? I typed back. He's gone. She called immediately. Gone where? She asked. I don't know. A hotel? Probably. And you're okay? I thought about it. Was I okay? My husband was having a baby with another woman. My marriage was over. I was about to be alone for the first time in 4 years. I'm okay, I said, surprised to realize it was true. Girl, you are stronger than I gave you credit for. Maybe. Or maybe I was just tired of being weak. At 9 o'clock, someone knocked on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw a man in a suit holding an envelope. Process server. That was fast. I opened the door. Mrs. Holloway. Yes. Divorce papers for your husband. Is he available? He doesn't live here anymore. The man made a note on his clipboard. Do you know where he can be reached? I gave him Grant's office address. Let him be served at work, in front of his colleagues. Let everyone know that his perfect life wasn't so perfect anymore. After the man left, I called the building manager. Mr. Collins, this is Ivy Holloway from 43B. I need to speak with you about my lease. Of course, Mrs. Holloway. What can I help you with? I'm getting divorced. My husband moved out yesterday. I want to make sure he can't come back without my permission. Silence. Then, I see. Well, if both your names are on the lease. They are. Then you both have equal rights to the apartment. But if you're concerned about harassment or unwanted visits, we can change the locks and give you the only key. Can you do that today? I'll have maintenance up there this afternoon. Thank you. Mrs. Holloway, I'm sorry to hear about your situation. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to call. It was the first time anyone in this building had called me by my name without Grant standing next to me. The first time someone had treated me like a person instead of an accessory. At noon, my phone rang. Grant's number. Ivy, he said when I answered. We need to talk. No, we don't. I was served divorce papers at my office. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? I can imagine. People are asking questions. My assistant wants to know if she should cancel our anniversary dinner reservation. Our anniversary, 3 weeks away. We'd planned to go to the restaurant where he proposed, back when I thought we were building something real together. Cancel it, I said. Ivy, please. Let's at least try counseling. Why? Because we're married. Because we took vows. You broke those vows. It was a mistake. One mistake. People work through worse things. I thought about Lila's rounded belly, about Grant's hands on her skin, about him whispering sweet words to her while I sat at home waiting for him. Not this mistake, I said. What about the apartment? You can't afford to live there alone. That's not your problem anymore. Ivy. I hung up. 20 minutes later, he called again. I didn't answer. He called 6 more times before he finally stopped. At 2 o'clock, maintenance knocked on the door. A kind-faced man named Jimmy who'd fixed our garbage disposal last year. Changing the locks, Mrs. Holloway? Yes. Please. He got to work, drilling out the old deadbolt. Everything okay? Mr. Holloway seemed upset when he left yesterday. We're getting divorced. Jimmy nodded like divorce was as normal as changing a light bulb. Well, you'll be safer with new locks. Can't be too careful these days. Safer. I hadn't thought about safety, but Jimmy was right. I didn't know what Grant might do when he realized I wasn't going to change my mind. When Jimmy finished, he handed me 2 shiny new keys. All set, he said. Old keys won't work anymore. Thank you. After he left, I tested the new lock. Solid, secure, final. I was officially unreachable. At 4 o'clock, Eleanor Holloway called. Ivy, dear, she said in her crisp voice. I understand there's been some trouble between you and Grant. Some trouble. Like a disagreement over vacation plans. Hello, Eleanor. I think we should meet. Talk this through like civilized people. Civilized people. Eleanor's favorite phrase. Her way of saying, people like us don't air dirty laundry in public. There's nothing to talk through, I said. Nonsense. Every marriage has rough patches. Grant's father and I went through difficult times too. Difficult times. I wondered if Grant's father had gotten his secretary pregnant and expected Eleanor to smile about it. This isn't a rough patch, I said. Dear, I know you're upset about this Lila situation, but you have to understand, these things happen. Successful men have. Pressures, temptations, anything except responsibility. Grant made a choice, I said. He made a mistake, but divorce? Really, Ivy. Think about what you're giving up. What am I giving up? Security, status, a good life. A good life. For who? I have a good life, I said. Eleanor's laugh was sharp. Do you? What will you do? Where will you go? You have no family money, no connections, no prospects. No family money. Translation, your people are poor. I'll figure it out, I said. Will you? Because I've seen what happens to women like you when the marriage ends. You struggle, you scramble, you end up bitter and alone, watching from the outside while life passes you by. Women like me. Eleanor didn't need to say black women. We both knew what she meant. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll have my dignity. Dignity doesn't pay the bills, dear. Neither does staying married to a man who doesn't respect me. Eleanor's voice went cold. Grant has been very good to you. Has he? He gave you opportunities you never would have had otherwise. He introduced you to a better life. The least you could do is show some gratitude. Gratitude for being tolerated, for being allowed into spaces where I wasn't wanted, for pretending I didn't notice the stares and whispers. You're right, I said. Grant did give me opportunities. He showed me exactly who I don't want to be. Excuse me? He showed me what happens when you lose yourself trying to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. I think you're being very foolish. Maybe. But it's my choice to make. Eleanor sighed. Very well. But don't come crawling back when reality sets in. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in the quiet apartment, thinking about what she'd said. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was being foolish. Maybe I should be practical and accept Grant's arrangement. But then I remembered this morning, waking up alone but not afraid. Making coffee without worrying about getting the temperature exactly right. Sitting in silence without feeling like I was disappointing someone just by existing. For the first time in years, I felt like myself. At 6 o'clock, Grant knocked on the door. Not the doorbell, actual knocking. Hard and insistent. Ivy, I know you're in there. Open the door. I looked through the peephole. He had a suitcase with him. And flowers. Red roses, like the ones he'd brought me after our first fight 4 years ago. My key doesn't work, he said. I changed the locks. You changed the locks? On our apartment? My apartment. Ivy, be reasonable. I live here too. Not anymore. You can't just lock me out of my own home. Watch me. Grant set down his suitcase and pressed his face close to the door. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about Lila. I'm sorry about the baby. I'm sorry about everything. Sorry. The word I'd been waiting to hear since yesterday morning. Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? I asked. I'm sorry I hurt you, but not sorry you did it. Silence. Grant? It's complicated. No, it's not. More silence. Then, she means something to me, Ivy. I can't just walk away from my child. My child, not their child, his child, the family he actually wanted. I'm not asking you to, I said. Then what are you asking? Nothing. I'm not asking for anything anymore. So that's it? 4 years of marriage and you just give up? Give up. Like I was the one who quit on us. You gave up the day you touched her, I said. Grant kicked the door, hard enough to make me jump back. This is insane, he shouted. You can't survive without me. I pressed my hand against the door, feeling the vibration from his anger. Maybe not, I said quietly. But I can't survive with you either. Ivy, please, just open the door. Let's talk face to face. No, I brought you flowers. I don't want them. What do you want? Money? I'll double your allowance. Allowance. Like I was his child instead of his wife. I want you to leave. I'm not leaving. This is my home. Then I'll call security. You wouldn't. I pulled out my phone and dialed the front desk. Hi, this is Ivy Holloway in 43B. My ex-husband is at my door refusing to leave. Could you send someone up, please? Grant's knocking stopped. Never mind, I said into the phone. He's leaving. I heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway. The elevator ding. The roses hit the floor outside my door with a soft thud. I waited until I was sure he was gone before opening the door to throw the flowers in the trash chute. The hallway smelled like expensive perfume and broken promises. Back inside, I made myself dinner. Real dinner, not the elaborate meals I used to prepare for Grant. Just pasta with butter and garlic. Simple food that tasted like freedom. After dinner, I called Marcia. He came back, I said. And? I didn't let him in. Good girl. His mother called too. Told me I was being foolish. That woman never liked you anyway. I know, but she wasn't wrong about everything. I don't have money, or a job, or family to help me. So, you'll figure it out. You always do. How can you be so sure? Because I remember who you were before him. You were strong, independent. You took care of yourself just fine. I'd forgotten that version of myself. The woman who worked 60-hour weeks and paid her own bills. who had opinions and goals and dreams that didn't revolve around someone else's approval. "I missed her," I said. "Who?" "Me, the old me. She's still there, just buried under 4 years of trying to be someone else." After we hung up, I walked through the apartment, really looking at it for the first time in years. The white furniture that showed every speck of dust. The abstract art that meant nothing to me. The flowers in vases that Eleanor had chosen because they were appropriate for the season. None of it was mine. None of it reflected who I was or what I loved. But that could change. I opened the windows and let in the cool night air. The city sounds drifted up, sirens and horns and voices, life happening all around me. Tomorrow I would start looking for a job. Maybe go back to hospital administration. Maybe try something completely new. Tomorrow I would call my cousin in Brooklyn, the one I'd lost touch with because Grant found her loud and inappropriate. Tomorrow I would remember how to be Ivy Brooks instead of Mrs. Grant Holloway. But tonight, I would sit in my apartment, and enjoy the silence. For the first time in years, the silence felt like peace instead of loneliness. And that was enough. 3 weeks passed like a dream I was afraid to wake up from. I found a job at Mount Sinai Hospital, not the fancy executive position I'd had before Grant, but something real, something that mattered. I helped families navigate insurance paperwork and payment plans. I translated medical jargon into words people could understand. I remembered why I'd loved this work in the first place. The morning routine was different now. Coffee at 6 instead of 6:30. The news on instead of silence. My phone stayed in my purse instead of clutched in my hand, waiting for Grant's texts. He'd stopped calling after the first week. His lawyer had contacted mine about the divorce settlement. Grant wanted to keep the apartment naturally. He offered me a lump sum to walk away quietly. I said no. "Mrs. Holloway," Daniel Reed had said during our meeting, "it's a generous offer, more than enough to start over somewhere else." I don't want to start over somewhere else, but the apartment is expensive, even with your new job. I'll manage. And I was managing. I'd called the building office and worked out a payment plan. My salary covered exactly half the rent and utilities. It would be tight, but I could make it work. Grant apparently couldn't. I learned this from Carlos, the doorman, who'd started greeting me with genuine warmth instead of polite professionalism. "Mr. Holloway was here again yesterday," he told me one morning, "looking for his mail." "Did you give it to him?" "Had to. His name's still on some of it, but he didn't look happy." Grant had been staying at the Carlisle Hotel downtown. Expensive, even for him. His pregnant secretary was living in a studio apartment in Midtown that cost more per month than most people's salaries. Supporting 2 households was bleeding him dry. I should have felt sorry for him. Instead, I felt nothing at all. The apartment was changing, slowly. I'd bought a bright yellow throw pillow for the white couch, put up a photograph of my grandmother that I'd kept hidden in the closet because Eleanor thought it was too personal for the living room. I'd even rearranged the furniture, pushing the couch toward the window so I could see the park while I drank my morning coffee. Small changes, but they made the space feel like mine. Marcia came for dinner every Sunday. Real dinner, fried chicken and mac and cheese and green beans cooked with ham hocks. Food that smelled like home and tasted like joy. We ate on the good china Grant's mother had insisted we register for, using it the way it was meant to be used instead of saving it for special occasions that never came. "You look different," Marcia said one evening, studying my face across the dinner table. "Different how?" "Lighter, like someone lifted a weight off your shoulders." She was right. I felt lighter. Even my reflection looked different. My skin had a glow it hadn't had in years. My smile reached my eyes again. "I feel like myself," I said. "The real you is pretty amazing." I'd forgotten that too. On a Thursday afternoon, my phone rang at work. Unknown number. "Ivy." The voice was young and uncertain. Yes? This is Lila Pierce. I almost hung up. Then curiosity got the better of me. What do you want? Could we meet? Just for coffee or something? I know this is weird, but what? I think we need to talk. I should have said no. Should have hung up and pretended this call never happened. Instead, I found myself agreeing to meet her the next day during my lunch break. The cafe she chose was small and quiet, the kind of place where people went to work on laptops or read books. Lila was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She was showing now. Not much, but enough that I could see the small curve of her belly under her sweater. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked tired. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down. I ordered coffee and waited for her to explain why she'd called. "I wanted to apologize," she said finally. "For what?" "For everything, for the affair, for getting pregnant, for ruining your marriage." I studied her face. She looked genuinely sorry. But sorry wasn't enough to fix what she'd helped break. "You didn't ruin my marriage," I said. "Grant did that all by himself. But you didn't make any promises to me. He did." Lila's eyes filled with tears. "I thought he loved me." Past tense. Thought. "What changed your mind?" I asked. "He hasn't seen me in 2 weeks. Says he's too busy with the divorce and work stress. But I saw him at lunch yesterday with some other woman, a redhead from his office. Of course, Grant wasn't capable of being faithful to anyone. Not me, not Lila, not whoever came next." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "Are you? Really?" I thought about it. Was I sorry that this young woman was learning the same lesson I'd learned? That Grant Holloway wasn't the man he pretended to be? "I'm sorry you're hurt," I said. "I'm sorry you're pregnant and alone. But I'm not sorry I left him." Lila nodded, wiping her eyes with a napkin. "I don't know what I'm going to do. About the baby, about work, about everything." "You'll figure it out." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you have to. When you don't have anyone to fall back on, you find strength you didn't know you had." We sat in silence for a moment, 2 women who'd both believed Grant's lies. "Can I ask you something?" Lila said. "Sure. Why did you stay so long? I mean, before me. Why did you put up with everything? Everything. The cold mother-in-law, the friends who tolerated me but never accepted me, the constant feeling that I wasn't quite good enough for the life Grant offered, because I thought that's what love looked like," I said. "I thought if I tried hard enough, changed enough, I could earn my place in his world. And now? Now I know I was in the wrong world." After Lila left, I walked back to work thinking about that conversation. She was young and scared, and alone with a baby coming. Part of me wanted to help her, but I knew I couldn't save her from Grant's selfishness any more than I could save myself. She'd have to find her own way, just like I had. That evening, I came home to find Grant waiting in the lobby. He stood up when he saw me, straightening his tie like he was preparing for a business meeting. "Ivy," he said, "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About us. About our marriage. I want to try again." I looked at him. Really looked. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His usually perfect hair was messy. He had dark circles under his eyes. "What about Lila?" "What about her?" "She's having your baby. I'll support the child financially, but that doesn't mean I have to be with her." "And the redhead from your office?" Grant's face went pale. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how I know. That's nothing, just lunch. It's never just lunch with you." Grant stepped closer. "Ivy, please. I made mistakes. I know that. But I love you." "No, you don't." "Yes, I do. I've always loved you." You love having me. There's a difference. What's the difference? I thought about how to explain 4 years of feeling like a beautiful object instead of a beloved wife. When you love someone, I said, you want them to be happy, even if it means you can't have them. I do want you to be happy. Do you? Because I'm happier now than I've been in years. Grant looked confused. But you're alone. Exactly. He ran his hand through his hair, the gesture I'd once found endearing. I don't understand you anymore, he said. You never did understand me. That was the problem. So that's it? We're really done? We've been done for a long time. I just finally admitted it. Grant pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. The divorce papers came through. I haven't signed them yet. But you will. Will I? I looked at the envelope in his hands. My freedom, waiting for his signature. Yes, I said. You will. Because deep down, you know this is right. You know we were never really happy together. I was happy. You were comfortable. There's a difference. Grant stared at me for a long moment. Then he pulled out a pen and signed the papers right there in the lobby, using the marble reception desk as a table. There, he said, handing me the envelope. You're free. Thank you. I hope you know what you're doing, Ivy. I do. Grant walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, he said. You were a good wife. I was, I agreed. I was an excellent wife. Just not for you. After he left, I rode the elevator to the 43rd floor and let myself into my apartment. My apartment now, officially and completely. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood by the windows, watching the city lights twinkle below. People were living their lives down there, working and loving and struggling and succeeding, being human in all the messy, complicated ways that Grant could never understand. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcia. How did it go? I typed back. It's over, really over. How do you feel? I thought about it. How did I feel? Sad about the years I'd wasted trying to be someone I wasn't. Angry about the lies and betrayal. Scared about the future and all its unknowns. But underneath all of that, something else. Something warm and bright and hopeful. Free, I typed. Want me to come over? We can celebrate. Tomorrow. Tonight I want to be alone. You sure? I'm sure. I put the phone away and walked through the apartment, turning on every light. The white furniture looked softer somehow. The art on the walls looked like possibilities instead of restrictions. Even the flowers, fresh daisies I'd bought myself, looked brighter. This was my space now. My life. My choice. I made myself dinner, just pasta with butter again, because I loved the simplicity of it. I ate at the dining room table, using the good china, because every day was special now. After dinner, I called my cousin Shanice in Brooklyn, the one Grant had found too loud, too inappropriate, too much like the family I'd come from. Ivy! She screamed when she heard my voice. Girl, where have you been? Lost, I said, but I found my way back. We talked for 2 hours. About our grandmother's recipes and childhood memories and dreams we'd forgotten we had. About the family barbecue next month that I'd been avoiding for years because Grant always had some work event that was more important. You coming this time? Shanice asked. Wouldn't miss it. Good. We've missed you. The real you. Not that fancy lady who used to visit and act like she was too good for potato salad. I laughed, remembering the woman I'd tried to become for Grant. Polite and quiet and appropriate. Never too much of anything. She's gone, I said. Good riddance. After we hung up, I sat in my living room and thought about the future. Tomorrow, I'd go to work and help families navigate impossible medical bills. This weekend, I'd have dinner with Marcia and maybe call some of the friends I'd lost touch with over the years. Next month, I'd go to that family barbecue and eat potato salad and laugh too loud and be exactly as much as I wanted to be. Someday, maybe, I'd fall in love again, with someone who loved me for who I was instead of who I could become. Someone who wanted a partner, not a project. But that was someday. Tonight was just for me. I turned off all the lights except one small lamp and curled up on the couch with a book I'd been meaning to read for months. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, my apartment felt like home for the first time in years. At midnight, I closed the book and got ready for bed. In the bathroom mirror, I saw a woman I recognized. Strong and beautiful, and completely herself. "Hello again," I said to my reflection. She smiled back. I turned off the last light and went to bed in my apartment, in my city, in my life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. Tomorrow would be another chance to be exactly who I was meant to be. But tonight, for the first time in years, I went to sleep happy. Some mornings, Grant still thinks about me. I know because sometimes I see him walking past the building, looking up at the windows, wondering what I'm doing, wondering if I'm lonely, wondering if I regret the choice I made. I'm not lonely. I don't regret anything. I'm exactly where I belong, in a life I chose, with a heart I own, surrounded by people who love me for who I am, instead of who I pretend to be. And every morning when I wake up in my sunny apartment, I remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from everything you thought you wanted and discover what you actually need. Freedom, dignity, peace, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the woman who stayed would have slowly disappeared, but the woman who left became more herself than she'd ever been before. Grant can keep his world. I built my own.